If you knew this was a one-way space flight with no return, would you still board the spacecraft without hesitation? During the Cold War, the military confrontation between the US and the Soviet Union escalated into the space race. In 1957, after the Soviet Union successfully launched the first artificial satellite, and in 1961, when Yuri Gagarin became the first human to travel into space, the Soviet Union became increasingly consumed by its desire for political dominance. In 1967, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the October Revolution and the 10th anniversary of launching the first satellite, the Soviet authorities decided to undertake an unprecedented top-secret space mission to compete with the US moon landing program and solidify their leading position. However, due to time constraints, the Soyuz 1 spacecraft, intended for this mission, had 203 major structural issues. Before the launch, 10 generals refused to sign off on the mission, believing that the spacecraft had too many safety risks. Yet, under immense political pressure, the higher-ups decided to proceed with the launch as planned. The astronaut assigned to this mission was Vladimir Komarov. Before departure, Komarov sorrowfully confided to his colleagues, "I will not return alive from this flight." When his colleagues urged him to withdraw from the mission, Komarov responded, "If I don't go, they will send my close friend, Gagarin, in my place." On April 23, the day of the launch, Gagarin had already donned his spacesuit, prepared to replace Komarov and face certain death in space. However, Komarov boarded Soyuz 1 ahead of him. Although the launch went smoothly, the nightmare began soon after the spacecraft entered its intended orbit. First, the left solar panel failed to deploy, leading to insufficient power to operate the radio system. Next, the automatic stabilization system malfunctioned. Despite Komarov's extensive flight experience and his efforts to troubleshoot the issues, the spacecraft remained out of control. Eventually, he managed to restore communication with ground control. Given the situation, the Soviet leadership decided to abort the mission and focus on rescuing Komarov. However, due to a series of malfunctions, the spacecraft could not enter its designated orbit. This meant Komarov had to attempt a manual re-entry. During the 19th orbit, Komarov successfully adjusted the spacecraft's trajectory and fired the retrorockets, breaking through the most dangerous blackout zone. As ground personnel marveled at his achievement of what seemed an impossible task, tragedy struck. At an altitude of 7 kilometers from the ground, the parachutes became entangled and failed to deploy, causing the re-entry capsule to crash into the ground at a speed of 200 meters per second and explode. Komarov perished in the fiery wreckage, his desperate final screams forever etched into history. When rescue teams arrived, the spacecraft was unrecognizable, reduced to a charred mass. In the debris, they found only a fragment of Komarov's foot bone. The Soviet Union held a state funeral for Komarov, who was mourned by the entire nation. His self-sacrifice for the sake of his friend made him the first astronaut in history to die during spaceflight.